Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jan Peters. I'm working as a peatland policy expert at the Greifswald Mire Center in Germany. I would like to thank the Peat project for organizing this workshop today and inviting me to give an input on international and EU peatland policies. Peatlands gained momentum in the last years, mainly due to the fact that they represent the largest terrestrial carbon store, and we could substantially reduce land use greenhouse gas emissions by rewetting relatively small areas. They are extraordinary nature-based solutions for climate action. A recently published study from the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact, which used our Greifswald Global Peatland database, showed that the global land sector will be a net carbon source by 2100 unless all presently intact peatlands are protected and at least 60% of the currently degraded peatlands are rewetted in the coming decades. This is actually a warning message, as we urgently need carbon sinks to achieve carbon neutrality already till 2050 to achieve Paris Agreement's goals, and all eyes for that are on the land use sector and especially on peatlands to deliver on that. To achieve this, the scientific, social and political discourse on peatlands needs to be represented in clear and stringent policies. Last year, the United Nations Environmental Assembly, as the highest multilateral body on environmental issues, adopted the first ever resolution on sustainable peatland management. The Global Peatlands Initiative, under the lead of UN Environment and FAO, have grown to more than 40 international partners, mostly research institutes and NGOs as members. EU policies are following up, taking more and more the peatland topic into account. But the focus on sectoral policies is particularly tricky for peatlands, as we have to care about bogs and fens, drained, undrained and restored lands. We have linkages to climate, agricultural, biodiversity, soil and water policies. Last but not least, we have areas with a high share of peatlands and people living there which are exceptionally affected, as we have it in Ireland. And the EU, as you can see here, is the second largest emitter of greenhouse gases, so we really have to urgently act. Although in the EU only 3% of the agricultural land is peatland, causing 1/4 of the total emissions of the land use and agricultural sector. In Ireland, actually, it's 7% of land used area, agricultural area is peatland, causing 1/3 of all emissions from these sectors. Last week, EU negotiations showed us a lesson on how current policy making is making harm to this. On the one hand, the cap and conditionality standards for peatland use were watered down by the Agri Council and the Parliament. But on the other hand, in another meeting, the Envi Council opted for ambitious climate law and biodiversity strategy under the European Green Deal, which have to take peatlands into account as key nature-based solutions. In the national implementation of the EU regulations and directive, peatland-rich member states like Ireland should consider all the cross-cutting effects, for example, in an overarching national peatland strategy. Beside this, it's important to highlight win-win solutions for land managers as farmers and conservationists for climate and nature. One of such solutions is paludiculture, which we define as the productive use of wet and rewetted peatlands. Objectives of paludiculture is first production, the agricultural and forestry product use, the peat conservation, reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, the stopping of soil degradation and subsidence, and optionally also new peat formations and other ecosystem services. There are various practices of paludiculture for bogs and fens, for construction material. As you can see here, a board made from typha, cattail, or a blow-in insulation material made also from cattail, or we have these packaging products which are made from harvested biomass from wet peatland areas. We have peat-free horticulture substrates from sphagnum farming, or we can use the biomass as a fuel for energy. To establish paludiculture, a paradigm shift in peatland use has to happen, and it has to be guided by smart funding schemes for remuneration of the ecosystem services, for farmers' extension services, and support for investments in adapted machinery. Greifswald Mire Center analyzed agri-environmental climate schemes of the running CAP funding period and showcased some good examples from Denmark, the Netherlands, Germany, Poland and Scotland and other member states, which can serve as blueprints for the next CAP period. I'll share the link to the publication here and in the chat. Including peatland management and paludiculture into the national strategic plans of the new CAP, therefore is essential for guiding the way towards a carbon neutral transformative future. And we need this future with and not against peatlands. Thank you very much for your attention.